Welcome back to AM Agenda. With me this morning, Liberal MP Kelly O'Dwyer and Labor MP Nick Champion. Nick, I want to ask you first about, and I'll get Kelly's thoughts on this as well. This is a letter from 50 academics to Notre Dame University in Fremantle, lobbying and calling for that university to cancel a speech by the controversial climate sceptic Lord Monckton, due to give the Lang Hancock speech tonight. This is sponsored by the mining mogul Gina Rinehart. Ban the Lord is the front page of the West Australian. Nick, why not allow this sceptic, this person, this Lord Monckton to speak, even if the academics think he lacks credibility? Isn't it healthy to have a debate?
Well, look, I think I agree with you, Kieran. It's better to hear from these people than to have them sort of cry foul and pretend that nobody's listening to them. I mean, Lord Monckton gets a pretty good hearing in this country, truth be known. He met with the opposition leader last year. He endorsed the opposition leader's policy on climate change. So we know where Lord Monckton stands, and we know, I guess, where Tony Abbott stands. That was a secret meeting, which they didn't reveal to the Australian people. So maybe Kelly can, if she's going to be consistent, can get Tony Abbott to reveal what was actually discussed at that meeting. But look, you know, well, he does meet with a lot of people, including Lord Monckton. But look, Lord Monckton can give his lectures.
I don't even know if he has. He meets with lots of people.
Well, he did meet with him. It was in The Age. It was the headline was "Mad Monk meets Lord Monckton." So I remember the headline well. Look, the point about this is Lord Monckton's free to give his lectures, and I guess rational, logical people are free to disagree with him. And, you know, that's the great contest of public ideas. That's why we live in a democracy. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I guess you agree with that, Kelly. And the fact is, Lord Monckton did apologise for his outrageous slur against Ross Garnaut, where he likened him to a Nazi, which was plain absurd a couple of weeks ago.
Well, it was offensive and it was disgusting. And while I don't agree with Lord Monckton's views, I do believe that in a free and democratic country like Australia, he has every right to be heard. And you know, I would agree with Nick on this one thing. You know, people can argue, a different point of view. I think it's totally inappropriate for a university that says that they are the bastion of ideas and a contest of ideas to want to actually ban somebody from speaking. I think that's totally abhorrent.
Yeah, it does surprise me that 50 academics would have signed this because, as you say, it is about debate, even if you think the guy lacks credibility, which many people do. Kelly, on the issue of Peter Reith and the IR think tank, what do you think of that idea that Peter Reith, the former minister in the Howard government, is going to push a think tank now on workplace relations? Is this helpful or is this a headache for Mr Abbott?
Well, look, Peter Reith is, a citizen like anybody else, and he's free to go about his business as he chooses. Peter Reith, of course, has got great expertise when it comes to workplace relations reform. He's one of the great ministers of the Howard government, and is somebody who's got a lot of ideas in relation to this area. I think there'll be many people very interested in the sort of ideas that he'll be putting forward in his think tank. The government, basically would like to pretend that their re-regulation of industrial relations is not having an impact on productivity. We know that it is. We know, in fact, that increasingly, as we see the wash-through effects, it's going to have more and more of an impact on productivity and on our economy. Now, I think it's appropriate to get the facts out there in this debate rather than simply relying on emotion. And, if Peter Reith can add to that, I think that's a good thing.
Do you think that it's good that Peter Reith has pressured Tony Abbott to strengthen his language on workplace relations in the last couple of days?
Well, look, I don't think Tony Abbott's pressured by anyone. Tony Abbott's made it very clear that we'll have a whole range of policies going into the next election. This is but one of many areas on which we will have something more to say before the next election. So, there are no surprises in that. That's completely consistent with what Tony's been saying all along.
Yeah, and the Australian Industry Group, Nick Champion, among others, are articulating a very similar case, that the Fair Work Act does need amendments, that it is not ideal, not perfect, that it's, after 2 years, a review is needed. Now, without resorting to the work choices scare campaign, which Labor MPs always do,
try not to, Nick.
Why not have a debate, a healthy debate, about looking at this, about the workplace laws and possibly tweaking your legislation? It's hardly infallible.
Well, Kieran, it's not a scare campaign, it's a fact campaign, and the fact was that people like shop assistants were 12% worse off under Australian workplace agreements and under work choices. So they are facts, and it's not a scare campaign to go out and say that working people in this country, shop assistants, transport workers, factory workers, cleaners and the like, were massively disadvantaged by work choices, and it was the Labor government's proudest act.
This is a law from 4 years ago. It's not today.
Well, but Labor's proudest act was to abolish work choices. We know what Peter Reith is talking about. He's thinking about cutting wages, cutting conditions, cutting job protection. That is what the Liberal Party are all about. And that whenever you hear a Liberal Party politician talking about productivity, they're not talking about the nation's productivity. They're talking about whipping some poor, forklift driver or shop assistant into line. They're talking about taking away their conditions, their job protections, their wages.
You are so
Make no
far off
mistake
the
about
mark.
it. And it is not a scare campaign to say. It is not a scare campaign to say on previous form. Peter Reith had dogs and security guards on the docks, massive confrontation against organised labour, and of course it's not an exaggeration to say that under previous bits of Liberal legislation, people lost conditions. That is the absolute truth, and if they get another chance in government, they will bring it back. But they won't be honest enough to tell the Australian people beforehand what their plans are. If Kelly's calling for an election today, if you're calling for an election today, you should release your industrial relations policy today. You all know what you're going to do.
Well, when there's an
We
election,
shouldn't have
we'll
this sort of
release it.
Barry O'Farrell style sneaking
up.
something through in the dead of night.
Nick, Kelly, appreciate it. Good on you. Thanks for that. That's all for
Thanks,
AM
Kieran.
Agenda.
Thanks, Nick.
I'm Kieran
Cheers.
Gilbert. Thank you for your company today.